So in lesson 4, you're going to be talking about delineating an argument. So one kind of text that you will analyze in this unit is an argument or persuasive text. So arguments make claims, statements that others may disagree with, but a writer can support it with evidence, okay? It may be fact, it may be opinion. A good argument supports claims with logical reasons. So the reasons should be supported by evidence that is credible and trustworthy and relevant or related to the argument and addresses opposing claims to disprove or dismiss those opposing claims. Okay. So you have to address not only the stuff that supports the argument, but you also have to address the stuff that's against the argument and tell why those claims are not good claims, right? You have to disprove them or dismiss those in some way. So remember in our last unit how we talked about looking for context clues. Notice how the definition for credible was given right here. It says credible, comma, or trustworthy. That is using a context clue to notice that the word credible means that it's a trustworthy source. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Just a little bit of extra information there. All right, so let's go ahead and watch a short video on what is an argument.
Hello, readers. Today we shall take the field in rhetorical combat, also known as argument. Argument is when an author wants to convince you of their position. This is my position, you should share this position, and here is why. Argument does not sneak. It does not come in through the back. It is supported by reasons, evidence, examples, not just pure opinion, not just cherry-picked stories, data, fact, observable reality. There is a place for pure subjective opinion, and it is the realm of the movie and the restaurant review. I did not like this movie because I didn't laugh at its jokes. I did not enjoy the hamburger I got because I found it too dry for my liking. This is not what we're talking about today. Obviously, argument is rooted in opinion and subjective personal preferences, but those opinions need to be backed up with evidence. Let's compare arguments for and against a tax on soda. Now, this writer argues that sugar contributes to obesity, and therefore people should be prevented from buying soda which is full of sugar on the grounds that it is bad for them. Let's take a look. The soda tax could alter many people's behavior, causing them to stop buying sugary drinks. Some foods are necessities, like milk, eggs, and bread. People will buy them even if the prices increase. Sugary drinks aren't necessary. If the price goes up, people will buy fewer sugary drinks and they won't be consuming as much sugar. Therefore, the obesity rate will go down. Whereas this author counters that people have a right to make what they see as unhealthy decisions. Soda and other sugary drinks have been targeted because they lack nutrition and are basically just liquid sugar. Most people would agree that proper nutrition is important for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. However, do legislators have the right or responsibility to regulate people's sugar intake in order to improve their health? I say no. Alright, let's evaluate these claims. For the first argument, in favor of the soda tax, how do we know this is true? What evidence does this author give that this tax will alter people's behavior? What evidence does this author give that sugary drinks aren't seen to be as essential as milk? After all, not everyone can or does drink milk. In the piece, the evidence that the author gives us is this table, which shows how much sugar is in soda per serving, but it doesn't use evidence to connect sugar consumption to unhealthy outcomes. All this says is soda has a lot of sugar. I want to see evidence. I want to see studies. How do we know this tax would change behavior? Good readers think through the impacts of an argument. If this tax went into effect, what would the consequences be? Are there faults in the author's logic? It might stop some people from buying soda, but in an unfair way. Here's how I'm processing this as a reader. If you take a bottle of soda that previously cost, say, $2, and the tax makes it $10, that will make it more difficult to purchase. But to a millionaire, the difference between $2 and $10 is basically nothing, whereas to a poor or middle class person, that $8 difference adds up pretty quickly. I see this as a possible unintended consequence of this proposal, that it hits poor people harder than rich people. As readers, it's not just our responsibility to interpret what the author's saying, we also have to ask ourselves, what are they not saying? In the second argument, the author is arguing that it isn't the government's responsibility to determine how much sugar people consume, and therefore taxes on sugary drinks are unnecessary. So now I'm asking, whose responsibility is it to determine how much sugar is in a drink? Why is sugar so inexpensive to begin with? Do legislators have a responsibility there? Now we know it's not legal to bottle rat poison and sell it as tea, But whose responsibility is that? What isn't this author saying, and how does not saying it serve their argument? They're not saying what the government could or should do, only what it shouldn't do. And this is why I want you to be skeptical whenever you read anyone's argument about anything. You need to figure out what the terms of the debate are. What does the argument assume as a given? What's a problem worth fixing? What are the trade-offs that the writer thinks are acceptable? So when you encounter an argument in text, look for the claims, and then look to see if those claims are backed up with data-supported reasoning. Is the author using evidence and logic? Do they anticipate objections to their arguments and push back on or incorporate those critiques? Above all else, I want you to remain skeptical. Everyone's selling something. Even me. It's just the thing I'm trying to sell you is the fundamental idea that you can learn anything. You've got this, readers. David out.
So it is your job to delineate or break down. There's that context clue again, right? In commas. Delineate means you're breaking it down, how well an author supports his or her argument, and then decide if you agree or disagree with that, right? Text, different strategies. You can use different strategies to do this. So text features such as titles and subtitles reveal the main points and show how factual support is organized. So it helps the reader to see how your argument is organized, right? Is the publication objective? Do they have a vested interest in this? Okay. Um, Ask useful question. Is the argument logical? Is the author's source reliable? Is there anything the author's leaving out of their argument? Consider the other side or sides of the argument. Is there an opposing claim the author doesn't address? Why might someone disagree with this author? You need to look at both sides of the argument, okay, guys? Because in your writing, when you write, you have to be able to support your opinion or your side of the argument with evidence, but you also have to be able to figure out how you're going to disprove the opposing side's claims. Okay. So you have to be able to do that. So you're going to have a counterclaim paragraph that you have to write in your essay for next unit. Remember, we do not have an essay for this unit. You will have a unit test for this unit, but for next unit, you are writing an argumentative essay. So you really need to know these skills. So let's go ahead and watch another video on identifying and analyzing arguments.
Usually, you're expected to identify and analyze the arguments made in the readings you do for your courses and assignments. In this video, we'll give some tips on how you can do that effectively. Let's start with how to identify arguments. An argument is a formal way to make a point in academic writing. When reading, you'll need to identify arguments to properly understand the main points the author is making. There are two ways you usually do this. First, in many paragraphs, there's a topic sentence that states the main claim or argument of the paragraph. This is normally the first sentence. Other sentences provide more detail, reasons, and evidence to support the argument made in the topic sentence. Here's a sample paragraph. In this case, the first sentence, reflective writing can help students become better thinkers, is the topic sentence and states the claim or main argument for the paragraph. The next sentence expands a little on the argument, and the last sentence provides support by citing a research study. If you can see that the writer is using topic sentences, you can get the main arguments by reading the first sentence of each paragraph. Not all paragraphs have topic sentences, though. If not, you have to work a little harder to figure out what the main argument is. First, you need to identify what the important ideas are. Then, look at what they have in common. Then summarize that to get the main point. Here's an example. It's a short paragraph that doesn't have a topic sentence. Instead, it has two sentences, each of which makes a claim. The first claim is that people who live near coal-fired plants are exposed to more radiation than those living near nuclear plants. The second is that nuclear energy production results in fewer yearly deaths than coal production. What these have in common are examples where nuclear energy is safer than coal-fired energy. In summary, the main argument of this paragraph, then, is that nuclear energy is safer. The papers you read will have arguments at every level. First, there will be the thesis, or main argument of the paper. Then there will be different sections, each with one main argument that supports the thesis. Each section will have paragraphs, each with a main argument that supports the argument of the section. It's important to get a sense of the bigger arguments being made, as well as how the smaller arguments contribute to them. Once you've identified the main arguments, you're expected to analyze them. To analyze arguments, you need to look at the supporting evidence presented to you. Look at the evidence critically and ask questions. Is the evidence sound and convincing? How does it compare with other arguments and evidence you've read? Is there a different explanation possible based on the evidence? People can make very different claims and support them with similar evidence, so it's important to think about their reasoning. In our first sample paragraph, support is given by citing a study that found that students who wrote in journals weekly could analyze course material better. This appears to be a credible study based on original research, and the findings logically connect to and support the main point, which is that reflective writing helps students to be better thinkers. In our second sample paragraph, the author mentions a paper in the journal Science, but doesn't give any details or citations. That means we can't evaluate how sound the evidence is. Without more detail, we can't be sure that this evidence supports the claim effectively and can't know how sound the argument is. In summary, to effectively analyze arguments, we need to understand how well the supporting evidence backs them up. That's how to identify and analyze arguments in your reading. You can also use these tips, though, in your own writing to improve your papers. Make sure you have a main point for each section of your paper and state it clearly in a topic sentence. Then make sure you support your argument effectively with good evidence from sources. You can find out more about creating arguments and supporting them in our other videos at library.wlu.ca/help/tutorials.